Hello everybody and welcome back here on Eiersholt farm. We're in spring, it's year 2 and it's raining. We've still got lots of snow lying on the ground as well. So we can't get into the ground yet, it's still frozen. Ooh, what I can do, even though I'm gonna get wet, is you see there's a full box of eggs over here. So let's find out which one of them. Let's see. Yeah, that one's full. We'll stick that one in the shed over here before everything gets too wet. But yeah, we can't get started on groundwork today with the ground still being frozen, so we're gonna hold off on that. Instead, I'm gonna do a bit more logging. But now that we have a bit of money, and frankly I don't fancy walking around out in this rain with a chainsaw all day, so we're actually going to be hiring a log cutter processor, whatever you call it, from the shop. So we're going to head down there, get it loaded onto here and take it up, and I reckon, although they are pretty pricey to hire, I reckon that we can make that money back fairly quickly. We don't necessarily get all the logs delivered to the sawmill today. What we're going to concentrate on is getting as many trees basically cut down from the slopes as we can today with this machine, because it will cost us quite a bit in hourly rates as well. But I'm going to hop back inside the cab here rather than the outdoor camera and we'll get down to the shop. Okay, so we're here at the shop now, looking at, it will really come down to whether we use the Scorpion King or 931. We'll just have a quick look at what the leasing costs are. Whoops, it always does this because it kind of places it. So the daily leasing cost for the Komatsu is 22,185 plus 9,000 per operating hour. For the Scorpion King, it's almost the same, 9,000 and a bit per operating hour, and initial leasing cost of 22,000. So I'm going to go for the Komatsu, mainly because I've used the Scorpion King back in FS17 and a little bit in other times as well. So we'll get away from that rather chaotic image of the two being clunked together, and we'll get this machine loaded up on the trailer. It's obviously, so we paid 22,000 and a bit already for this, so we want to make sure that we make as good use of it as we can. But it is possible that we are going to be working it for more than one operating hour. We will just have to see how we get on with this. But that's it in place, and we'll get over to the forest. So I think we're going to start over here on this side. Still going to have to go down and get in past the bushes here, but we'll be focusing on this slope here and see how many we can get cut down. We still have a few logs lying here from the last time, and obviously we will still be using the lever to load them onto our log trailer. Whoops, I don't think I'm going to make it around there, but it's probably fine to drop the machine here and then drive in instead. But yeah, this is a lot more comfortable than running around with a chainsaw, and like I said, I think we should be able to fairly quickly make back in logs what it costs to hire this machine. So we'll get set up here, and it'll be time to take down some trees. Now before I do that, I do need to remember to set our log length, so we can go up to 8 meters of log length. I think we're gonna stick with maybe 5 meter logs. That'll be a little bit easier to lift. So we'll see how that goes, and we will try and create some reasonably organized piles down here on the flatter ground, so it'll be a bit easier to load up a trailer when it comes to that. It's so much more comfortable being inside of this cab here and being able to work and create some much neater piles right away without having to drag things halfway through the forest. So while the logging is carrying on, we actually need to get back because we need to use the truck. We're gonna sell our first milk today as well, before it gets too late. It does mean leaving the low loader down here, just for now, and bring the truck back up to the farm. So we can see, we got a couple of days worth of milk, so there's a fair bit to get into the tanker this time around. It probably won't be as much once we settle into a routine of how we do this, but for now we'll get up to the farm and get that sorted out. It's nice to see the snow clearing away now, even though it is still pretty cold. And we got our lever sitting here. We kind of created a log holding slot before. I think this time where we are cutting the logs more straight and uniform sizes, we'll be able to use the machine with a little bit more ease, even down on the ground. We don't have to stack them quite as carefully, although the better they're stacked, the easier it'll be to get onto the truck. So once again, the truck is doing a lot of work, and it really is starting to need a service as well. We'll need to look at that in the next episode or so. But it'll do a milk run, and then we'll bring the log trailer down to the forestry area as well. Obviously we will have to return to Komatsu probably before we start loading logs, but we're going to try and get a big area cleared, and then we'll see how many of the logs we get shifted. Otherwise they'll sit in the forest for a bit, and because once the ground clears up, we got quite a lot of jobs to be getting on with, making sure that our fields are fertilized. We got a couple of brand new fields that probably need a little bit more attention, so there's plenty to be getting on with once the temperature increases just a little bit more. So that's our milk tanker coming out to get used properly for the first time. So we'll just get it backed up to the milking parlour here, and we'll get it transferred. So we're just going to open the covers and then we'll be able to start filling. So we got 16,000 litres to bring on board the tanker. The tanker can easily carry all of that, but that is right from the beginning when we started having cattle on the farm. Obviously, the number of cows has been growing over the last few days, coming out of winter and into spring. So actually, just before we drive off, I'll show you. We're now up to 74 cows. Obviously quite a lot of newborns now, but we will be producing a decent amount of milk. I am thinking about putting the milking time mod for Global Company in. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments. It means that the milk would only increase at 6 in the morning and 6 at night to kind of simulate 2 milking times for the cows. But we better get down to the dairy and see what we can fetch for our first half tanker load of milk here. So we're just coming into the village here where the supermarket is, and we'll slow down a bit. The dairy is just down the other end of the village here. It's a nice little place. So that's us here, arriving into the dairy. I think I can see the unloading point right here in the yard, so that should be nice. Some nice farm fresh milk to be sold now. And that's us pumping milk over, and the money is running up really quite fast actually. Wow. Let's see how we make out of this. €63,000, almost €64,000 for half a tank of milk. Now obviously there's seasonal variation on milk prices, and this was from several days, but it's really nice to see the cattle finally starting to pay off. We've sunk a lot of hours into generating the hay and the silage and the straw and everything, and the work in the morning to feed them and clean them out and everything like that. And for the entire first year on the map, that is basically just an investment you got to make without really getting very much back from it. But now this stuff is starting to pay off, which is brilliant. So we'll get back up to the farm. We'll pick up the log trailer from there, bring it down to the forest, and see how we're getting on with the Komatsu. So I'll run these logs through the processor here. I'm seeing a few issues with branches here, so we're just gonna climb in the pile and see if we can get the worst cleared off. I don't think it's a big issue. It's not very many branches, but I know this looks untidy enough even without extra branches sticking out of it. We're up to 0.7 hours on the Komatsu here, so we're gonna keep going for a little bit longer, and then we'll have to make a decision as to whether we turn it back in. It's coming up to like 5-6 o'clock in the evening, so one option is that we push on for the rest of today with cutting more trees, because I don't know whether the ground will be cleared, defrosted tomorrow or not. So I think that might be the best course of action, even if it means we'll be paying another €10,000, well, close to €9,000 for another hour of using the Komatsu, but it means we'll be able to make a lot of progress. It is a little bit time consuming because we're on this quite steep hill here, and I'm using the cutter to drag the logs down so we don't have to try and chase them around afterwards. I guess technically speaking we could have brought the 6R with the push blade and winch over and used it for that, but I don't know, they'll be rolling all over the place anyway, I think. So this has been working okay, and actually, although each individual pile isn't necessarily particularly massive, if we just kind of spin around, we got one pile here and we got another 2 piles down there. So I think we're getting to a point where we got a good few loads. I think if we're going to keep it for another hour, I might look at trying to establish a load somewhere up on the hilltop, if I can find an area that is flat enough. Okay, so we're on to day 2 of spring, and as you can see, our bank account is back up to 400,000 euros. I got a real do this morning after we finished with the Komatsu last night, and I got the animals fed and then headed up to the forest to get some logs loaded on and up to the sawmill. We're not done, there's still plenty of wood up there actually, so there's still good money to be made from this process, but the ground is no longer frozen, so I think we can also get started on carting out some manure to our new field just down across the bridge that we're going to be sowing some millet on. So I'm going to show you a little montage of a bit of the logging work that went on this morning, while I head up and get the trailer hooked up and the manure spreader hooked up as well. I'm going to take the T7 up and take the snowplow off in the meantime, so I'll see you in a little minute. So I'm just getting the manure spreader hooked up now, and right across from here in the storage area we've got an overfill pipe that will actually push it up into the trailer. So we're just going to go around the slurry pit and start getting this filled. So we have 187,000 litres, and there's actually a little bit left at both the cows and the pigs that we can put in if needs be, but for now this will certainly be plenty to keep us going. I think it should be enough to cover our field, plus probably a little bit more. So the big question is whether we are going to be using a trailer to pull manure out to the field, and then load it into the manure spreader. I think that is probably what you would do under normal circumstances. We don't have a huge trailer. I don't really want to use the one from the truck. Let's just hop in the cab here. But yeah, I don't really want to use the one from the truck to start transporting manure in. That is the one we use for shifting grain, although I admit we used it for silage as well. So we'll see how far we make it. Sort of on the first pass here. The plan is for this field to have manure spread on it, and then we're going to plow it in. I don't think that field needs lime, but we have one of our grass fields that needs some lime spread on it. That will be for the next episode. Oh, it's looking quite hazy and like foggy today. But I suppose we're still in early spring and it's really only 5 degrees and the ground has really only just crawled above freezing here. So right here on our right, this is our new field, and we got the first entrance right here. So it's not a long run from the farm, so in some ways it might actually be better to just run it up, but we'll see how we get on with the muck spreading. It's a fairly large field, so in some ways it could be handy to have our cosplay running doing the spreading, and in the meantime we'll be transporting manure to the field, although obviously we will then have to manually load it with the telehandler or something like that, which will inevitably also take some time. So we'll see how we get on here. So we actually got a pretty decent reach. We've pretty much made it sort of, I don't know, 3/4, halfway around the field. We've still got a bit left. So I'm going to generate a cosplay for this. And that means we can use one of the trailers to run it down. We'll need to get the telehandler and everything ready. So probably going to run out pretty quickly, but we'll get back to the farm in the meantime and get our small manure trailer filled up and get the telehandler ready. So we'll just use the Massey here because it's not a particularly large trailer. It only takes 8,000 litres right now. I am quite tempted, there we go, our cosplay is already filled up. I'm quite tempted to run this down to the workshop and put an extra set of sides on. That gives us a capacity of 12,000 litres instead, which inevitably will be better for keeping things running. So we'll just do that very quickly, and we'll also get the manure fork onto the telehandler so we can get things going. I think it should still fit out the door at least, but it cost us €2,000 for the extra sides for the trailer, but now we've basically got it fully configurable. I think the Massey can pull it even though manure is quite heavy, so that's not an entire trailer load for the manure spreader each time, but if we're running back and forth continuously while it's spreading, I think we should have a chance of starting to catch up on dumping some manure. The only question is whether we'll be doing it in the right place or not. So we'll do the same as before. We'll go around the loop and get the first manure collected, and then we'll get both the telehandler and the first load over to the field to fill up. So we're here with the first load. We know the trailer takes 12,000 litres and there's room for 16,000 in the spreader. So right now, while we're just catching up, it's not going to be a problem to find out exactly where to dump. We basically just dump it here, get the telehandler to load it in while we are going to try and pick some more up. I'm going to try and see if I can set up a courseplay route to at least just run the tractor back up to the farm in the meantime, just up from the beginning of the field at least, because I'm not too familiar with how to do this in courseplay yet, so it's going to be a first. Let's see, so I'm going to start course recording. Set unload temporary course, reverse driving and turn. We don't need any of that. We should be good to go here for now. So fortunately this is a route where there's no traffic, so I'm hoping we should be okay to record a really simple route. I don't know if it's possible to go both directions on the same route or whether we need to do a separate one, but I obviously need to drive steady and avoid colliding with anything at least while we're doing this. And obviously right now it's not saving us any time, but I'm thinking that while we're doing unloading on the next run, we'll be able to at least set the tractor up to collect, and then maybe go back down to the field and unload or something like that. We don't necessarily have to go all the way in and load to begin with. That will sort of be the next stage. I'm just going to try and stop the route here to begin with, like that. And that's a temporary course. So if we just call this one field 49 to yard, for example. Yard, like that, and then we'll figure out whether we can reverse the direction of it and stuff like that, or whether it's unidirectional. It might be, but we don't need the next load right away, so we can just leave this guy to load up, and then we'll get over to the telehandler to start loading up the manure spreader. So we brought the manure fork out. It takes just over 2,000 a shot, so this shouldn't be too bad to get done. It won't take long to fill up the spreader again here, or well, not fill it up, but get the load in. So I guess it's possible that you can reverse a course, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. So just for the time being, I'm recording one going back to the field as well. I guess it would be better to have them as a loop, but yeah, I'm not a courseplay expert. So if you have any guidance that doesn't involve hours and hours of trying to figure things out, drop me a message in the comments or something like that. I will try and explore more of courseplay. I know there's also what's called auto drive that apparently has all the Eiersholt routes on it, but to be honest, I tried it a little bit, at least the one that was released on the Mud Hub, and then I gave up quite quickly. It just didn't seem very intuitive to me. At least with courseplay I kind of generally understand the concept, but the T7's empty again already. That was quick. So I don't know if we can keep up. It takes a while to refill it each time, of course, but I think maybe these routes will help a little bit at least. Oh, and of course I think he is now running over the track that we did initially, so we got to make sure we get the tractor moved out a little bit, but I'm gonna stop the track here again. And that is the Massey back on the field at least. So it kind of seems to be working, but I do kind of get the feeling that I probably should be creating a loop where he goes and loads up automatically. Instead would probably be more effective for this. But for now, it's better than nothing. So while we're unloading, we'll kind of reload the route to take it back up to the yard, and while we are working the telehandler. So it does save a little bit of time. I'm sure there's a much more efficient way of doing this. And some of you are probably going to be shouting at the screen while you're watching this, but yeah, we're getting there. So that's our manure unloaded, and the Massey is on the way to run that route back up to the yard at least. And that should help speed things up a little bit now that we're doing it the right way around, I think. An important note to oneself: remember to stop the course play when you're filling, because otherwise it literally drives off the moment you got a little bit into it. So now it's going to take a little bit longer to refill because he went up here. So with manure getting spread on the field here, providing us with some free fertilizer essentially, we are making a good start on springtime of the second year here on Eiersholt. In the next episode, I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about plans and goals for year 2. It'll be good to get any comments, because the first year on Eiersholt took a long time and a lot of episodes to play through. Part of that was because we ended up doing a kind of reset back to scratch after a couple of episodes, because there were new versions of the map and stuff like that. So I suspect that year 2 we're going to try and get through it a little bit quicker. Not that I want to leave out lots of stuff, but on the other hand, we don't want the episodes to end up becoming too repetitive. So obviously, when major things are happening on the farm, in terms of new fields, harvest, stuff like that, we'll be making episodes about it. But if you have any ideas of things that you would like to see more or less of in the series, drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I've got a lot of positive feedback so far from everybody who's watching, and I really do appreciate that. It's great to know that although I am just a small channel doing this for fun, it's still nice to know that somebody is enjoying the content. So with the view of some more manure going out, we're going to call this today's episode. I'll be finishing this off screen, and then in the next episode we'll be able to get the field plowed and then seeded as well. But for now, thank you very much from Overcoat Gaming, and see you again soon.